If you're building a business, you're surviving and not thriving, you're doing okay, but you feel like you should be doing a lot better, you're going to absolutely love this video. For the last 20 years, I've built multiple multi-million pound businesses. I've got 1,200 staff today, and I've learned a thing or two about scaling up companies. What are the right business models for serious profitabilities, and what are the ones that we should absolutely avoid? What should we be investing our time, effort, and energy into to get maximum results? This is the video for you. The next 57 minutes are going to break it down. So if you can't watch 2 minutes of this video, just click off. It isn't for you. It's for action takers that want to make serious profitability and want to move some mountains. Let's get into it. Building a business that really makes serious amounts of money is one that very few people achieve. It's so flipping hard. And I think that's why so many entrepreneurs and business owners that have been following me over the years ask me these questions. James, how do I actually get into the top 5-10% of successful entrepreneurs? What are they doing so differently? Well, that's really what I want to break down in this video. Really, I've identified there's 3 types of entrepreneurs: the solopreneurs, the entrepreneurs, and the investorpreneurs. And that's where this really starts. Now, I've got a little theory which I call the entrepreneur's pyramid. And I really break it down like this. 8% of entrepreneurs and business owners are what we call solopreneurs. They are doing the same things day in, day out, usually doing up to around £75,000 worth of revenue. And what they really do is build themselves a profitable job. The next stage is entrepreneurs. They're about 15% of the entrepreneurial population. They've started employing a few people. They're usually control freaks over their business. They don't actually understand systems and processes. They don't have that much commercial awareness, but their work ethic is so strong they just about get by. Now, they're doing way, way better than these people, but they are not doing what the top 5% do. And the top 5% are what I call investorpreneurs. So when you look at an entrepreneur, when an entrepreneur gets it really right, they can literally go to the moon. They can get 300, 400, 500% returns on their time invested, their capital invested, but very few of them get it right. Now, when you look at an investor, they might only get 5 or 10% returns, but an investor puts their pound or their dollar into something and they say, well, look, in 5 years' time, my dollar or pound is going to be worth X, Y, Z, and I'm going to get out of the game and then look for another investment. It's what private equity and venture capitalists do so well. They put their money in, they know the exit date, and they know what their likely return's going to be. It's all planned out quite methodically. But you don't get that with entrepreneurs. They see an opportunity and they want to seize the opportunity and go for the gold. So what I want entrepreneurs to do is fuse the two together to have this investorpreneur. That's what the top 5% do. Let's have a little recap of this. So we've got the solopreneurs. They are doing the same day in, day out. They're the sheep if they was an animal. Get up, eat some grass, go to bed, that's it. They wait for it to happen if it ever happens. The entrepreneurs, the oxes if they was an animal. They're doing massive working hours. They're huge pound turners. They're very good at turning money, not necessarily making lots of money. Sometimes they fear failure, but they have these moments of glory that keep them in the game, and usually a control complex over the business. Now, the investorpreneurs, what I like to call the eagles if there was a business, they're soaring high over their business, looking for talent to run their business. And this is the big difference. They believe in that methodology that I call E+M equals S. They believe in entrepreneurship plus management equals success. And this is the big difference. They're looking for the best possible management to run their business so they can grow their business. These people are growing it and operating it. These people are growing it, operating it, and they're also the technicians of the business. These people, the top 5%, are just growing their business and they put the best possible people to operate their business. That is the clear differentiator. So if you can be in a position where you spend 100% of your time or 80% of your time growing the business and you put an effective management team in place to run the business, you are going to be in the top 5%. In reality, most people don't do that. I'll give you a little fact here about size of businesses here in the UK. 70% of businesses don't even pay VAT. So only 30% of businesses are turning over £94,000, which I believe the numbers are now. So you've got loads and loads of micro businesses. Now, the top 30%, once you look at employees and in people employing over 10%, the numbers get so small. It's like 1, 2, 3% controlling most of the workforce and most of the UK business landscape. It gets worse than that because there's only 7,500 companies here in the United Kingdom that employ more than 250 people. Now, I'd be one of those people, but I've got a couple of companies that employ more than 250 people. So by rights, there's probably only 5,000 people controlling most of the UK workforce. Mind-blowing stuff. Most people do everything they can to put off employment, put off investment, put off buying an investment. They're looking for it to be as low barrier to entry as possible. But here's the thing about being low barrier to entry. Everyone else is competing with you. So the higher barrier to entry you think, the less competition you have, and by rights, therefore, the bigger results you should have. So they're the three types of business owners. I think it's really important that we understand that. Let's now look at the business life journey. Now, I've got a little chart up over here. I'm just going to take the jacket off, gang, as we get into this a bit more. This is the steps that most business owners go through, and certainly the steps that I went through. Now, I started out as a magician. And I was doing kids' parties, corporate gigs, bar mitzvahs, weddings. That was my startup business. It was a small business. It was a swapping time for money business. That's what the solopreneurs do. Usually a swapping time for money service business. But I got out of that. I started hiring out equipment and stuff like that. But that was my startup business. So let's say a startup business is 0 to 50,000 of revenue. If you then want to go one step further, you start paying VAT, you take on a small premises, the overheads start trickling in. Think of yourself as a mobile hairdresser. You get a little car and you're going around cutting people's hair and you're swapping your time for money, but you've really got zero overheads. You've got a profitable job, you're paying yourself some income, maybe you get some tips to make it feel like a really good life. The next level is going out there looking for a premises and employing other hairdressers. Let's actually work that out now as a scenario here if you was in the United Kingdom. So there you are, there you're the hairdresser, things are going really well, you're bringing in £50,000 worth of revenue, maybe you've got some fuel bills and a few costs, maybe you've got 4k of costs, you've got a £46,000 profitable job there. Now you want to get your premises, things are going really well, people are loving your services, you're going to employ some people, maybe your revenues will be £200,000 with your shop. But out of that £200,000, the VAT man now turns up to take 20% of it. Now, you wouldn't have had that with the £50,000. So you're 20% down straight away. But you're also going to have business rates here in the UK for taking on that premises. You're going to have electric costs. When you was doing a mobile hairdressing, you was using other people's electric, i.e. your customers. And now you're going to employ people. You've got employers NI as well, which is a tax for employing people. So you've got all of these other turnover taxes that come in. And you might find, although you're turning £200,000, you might only be making a £30,000 salary out of running this business because of all the government turnover taxes. This is before you made a profit. And so that becomes a real struggle for entrepreneurs and business owners as they try to scale up. So let's explain that on the chart. You now got your premises, you're in the struggle phase, but if you get to 300,000, things should start getting easier because you're getting economies of scale because of the turnover growth. And any business that gets from 300 to 2 million, I call them SME, beautiful boutique businesses. Around 2 million of revenue. If you're doing things really well, maybe you've got a massive big hairdressing salon, you could probably pull 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 pounds out of your business and have a nice life. Now, if you're seriously entrepreneurial, that ain't going to be enough for you. You're thinking, wow, look, I've got this £2 million business. I want to take it to the next level. So what happens is you pop along to the bank manager and say, hey, look, I've got this business. I'd like now open a second hairdresser's or a second restaurant or a second hotel or a second MOT station, whatever it is that your business is. And the bank go, well, yeah, it's profitable. We'll lend you some money, but probably not enough to be completely cash flow positive. They always lend you just enough, but not enough. And so you use your cash flow to meet the gap and you start over trading. You get that second restaurant, that second hairdresser's, it's doing okay. And you think, hey, look, let's get a third one. We'll get more economies of scale, but the third one never trades as good as the first one. You're now out of the first one trying to manage everything, so everything starts dipping because the quality and customer service is there, and you're learning how to run a bigger business. It all gets really complicated. Now, what happens here is people get to that 2 million mark. They're in the over trading territory because they're trying to fund it out of cash flow and maybe a little bit of debt. They sometimes, very often, return back to where things were safe. So we've got 3 restaurants. Let's get rid of 2. Let's go back to 1 restaurant, get service up. Let's have a nice life. Let's actually have some days off and have a lovely life again. So that's what can happen quite often. They return back to safety. Now, if you're a serious entrepreneur like me, I mean, this was my life. Kids entertainer, magician, struggled really hard, started taking on overhead, open an indoor play centre, then open another one, then open another one. NatWest, Lloyds, all the high street banks, they held me a little bit, but not enough money to what I needed. So I overtraded. And then I started working really hard. I was gigging. I was running a £5 million business and gigging as a magician at the same time, just to bring in more cash flow through my overtrading days. It's what lots of entrepreneurs do. But once you start getting to, say, the 10 million turnover mark, you now start getting economies of scale on profitability, on overheads and stuff like that, that you go into scale stage and you start making lots of profit. I mean, look, if you're over here, and you've got, 1 restaurant over here, and then you open a second and a third. You was the manager of that first restaurant, but you can't afford any central management to help you. So you're now looking after 3 places, and you're dividing your time a third. You can see why things start slipping. Now, if you get to opening, 10 restaurants, or 12 restaurants, over the top of this, you can have a middle management team, an MMT, a middle management team that start driving quality, systems and processes. But you need that when you've got 3 or 4 restaurants, but you could probably leverage the same team when you've got 12. So you get that economies of scale on management, which is so difficult for startup struggle and businesses in their early years. And banks hate funding cash flow. What they want to do is fund something that's a proven track record. They don't want to fund something that, might not succeed, but might succeed. And that's why so few make it. And that's where really private equity, venture capitalists, angel investors get all that stuff. And that's why they tend to fund the overtrading businesses and the startup struggle businesses. The banks, they love to fund SME boutique businesses that are steady eddies, that are try, test and prove, and they've got 10 years accounts, they've always made profits, they just want to organically grow 5 or 10% a year. You go to a bank and say, look, we've gone from 2 million to 8 million in the last 3 years, we've used our own cash flow, we want to go to 30 million and we want to do it in the next 24 months. The bank manager's thinking, oh my God, this is too entrepreneurial for us. Where's the systems? Where's the people? Where's the processes? But hey, investors love that stuff, and that's where they really come in. Now, if you look at the scale businesses, you get to 25 million turnover, everything's in place, you've got a great management team, good accounts for multiple years, repeat. The banks like funding that section as well. So SME boutiques, they love funding that. Scale businesses with proven track record, they love funding that too. So remember, 70% of businesses are down here, 30% of businesses are up here, and on this scale where we're talking about the super successful entrepreneurs, I reckon 5%, less than 5% hit that in my experience. The question you need to be asking yourself now when you've watched this little bit, if you're an entrepreneur, you really want to be here or here. The rest is really tough. This is just a means to an end. You've got to go through it. But once you get here, you've got to really ask yourself, do I want to go big or do I want to be boutique? Because this here, overtrading, struggling, you've got to have big balls and big determination to go through to the next level. I really massively admire people that are able to achieve that and stay in the game. I don't know how I did it. Now I've got a family and I feel my time is more balanced. I was really young when I went through this. It was some of the toughest sleepless nights. borrowing money from here, there, and bloody everywhere. It was tough. It was really tough. Personally guaranteeing millions of pounds, which I still do today, but on the back of a proven track record. It's not for everyone, gang. It is not for everyone. So the best thing that really breaks this down, I've got a little chart that I use that will help you. And I call this my finish chart. It's a really simple thing that you can do. You want to write the word profit, revenue, team, culture, and you. They're the absolute must words. Over here, we're going to write 12 months and we're going to write 10 years. And we're going to put this into a little chart over here. You can just do this in a notebook. Actually write it down. Don't do it on a computer. Use a pen and a paper. And what you want to identify is, what does my business look like in terms of profit in 12 months' time? Let's say you're running that restaurant or that hairdressing salon. We want to make 100K profit by the end of 12 months. But in 10 years' time, the reason I put 10 years is because it forces you to think bigger. It forces you to think bigger. And remember what I said at the beginning of the video, that gives you a distinct advantage in entrepreneurship. The bigger you think, the less competition you have, and the more you'll achieve. And actually thinking in 10-year chunks really changes the mindset game. I love this little phrase by Bill Gates. I use it all the time. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in a year, but massively underestimate what you can achieve in 10 years. So it's really a good way of thinking bigger and better. So you said, well, if I'm making 100K in 12 months, surely making £1 million at the end of 10 years is so easy. I've got 10 years to achieve this, Captain. Why can't I do that? So 100K in 12 months, 1 million profit in 10 years' time. Now, you need to know what revenue you need to generate to bring that in. Maybe you need to bring in 300K of revenue to make £100,000 profit in a small boutique hairdresser. Over here, though, when it comes to revenue to make £1 million, it might not be 3 million because you might have more middle management to achieve it. So you might need to bring in 4 million to achieve 1 million net profit, or maybe even 5 million to achieve 1 million of net profit. Why do I say that? Here's the fact about business. As your turnover grows, the pennies that you keep out of each pound in terms of profit diminishes because you have more middle management, more overhead costs. You just can't be as frugal with a big business. You need HR departments to manage people. But when there's only 2 or 3 people, you don't need any of that stuff. You don't need the rigorous health and safety policies that a £4 or £5 million business does when you're just a small one-man band. All of these things, insurance rockets up, all the testing and HR and red tape that comes into a bigger business is just not there with a boutique business. That's why so many big businesses only make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% profit. But when I had my small entertainment business, I'd turn 100 grand and keep 95,000. Madness. And then as I turned £1 million, I kept £100,000. Where did the 900,000 go? It just gets sucked up into overhead. And that's why you must understand, as the business turnover grows, you will keep less pennies from each pound. It's just an absolute fact, gang. Right, team. Over here, we're going to identify what our team look like, and we want to write that down. This is our team that's going to look after our business that turns 300,000. Maybe you've got a part-time bookkeeper. Always remember this: employ an accountant before you can afford it. But at this stage, you might be employing a bookkeeper to do all your numbers. Make sure you produce a monthly profit and loss. Get into that brilliant habit as soon as you possibly can, because once you've got a monthly profit and loss, I promise you, you start rising up that entrepreneur's pyramid faster than anyone else. Know your numbers, gang. Commercial awareness. It will help you be a better entrepreneur. Get used to that massive habit of producing management accounts on a monthly basis. So you've got a bookkeeper, you might need a supervisor to help you run the business, and you have technicians actually doing the business. Now, when we're running a £4 million business, we might need a full-time accountant now. We might need a full-time general manager. We might need someone that's going to help us with the HR. We're going to have the technicians, and we're going to identify who the A team are going to be in 10 years' time. Effectively, we're playing fantasy football, but for the future. Who would we like our A team to be? Because once we start putting that into our mind and committing it to paper, it's just something about writing it down, your dreams come true. Now, culture. We want to identify the culture in our business. Now, when you've got a small business, when I had a small business, less than 12 people, you're all working together. Oh my God, you can have the absolute best culture in your business. Everyone gets on with each other. Probably people are sleeping together. Everyone knows about it. No one really bloody cares. You go for drinks together. You're all friends. But when you're running a big £4 million business, you're going to have some procedures in place. As soon as the team goes over 12 people, you start getting political alignments. That's what happens. You start getting cliques. You start employing a few toxic people, and you need to be very good at managing those people out. You need to be really good at training and enforcing culture. The difference here is you're friends here, but over here you need to know the difference between being friendly and friends. You can't have your favourites, which tends to happen as a business grows. You're going to have to put structures in place. We need to identify that here. And lastly, you. What are you doing for the business here to achieve all of that stuff? Very different to the person over here. What have you got to become? And what have you got to do to have all of this stuff? In essence, you need to work harder on yourself than you do your business to achieve the 10-year goals. And that could be reading books, absolutely going to seminars, finding mentors, liaising with other business owners and entrepreneurs that are doing better than you so you can feed off of them. You must work on yourself, and then you'll start really achieving much better things for your business. So there we go, gang. The big question here is boutique or big businesses, knowing what your business looks like in 10 years and actually understand what it looks like in 12 months as well. You want to build profitable businesses, gang, not profitable jobs. And here's the thing. I am asking you, do you want a boutique business or a big business? But I think if you're going to choose entrepreneurship as your career over having a job, no, there are many more risks. You are going to be responsible for livelihoods. I wake up every single month thinking, I've got to find £1 million for payroll this month. What if we have a tight month? What if we have an economic pressure? What if we have a disaster? I've got to fund all that stuff. I've got to be the person that makes it all happen. There are no excuses for entrepreneurs. You either deliver or you're out of the game. And not everyone can take that on. So you've got to understand, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you might as well go for gold, because the risks are there. If you've got a small business, a boutique business or a big business, you're in charge of your own destiny. You are your own economy. Okay. I think really what I've identified here is you must employ people if you want to build a commercially profitable enterprise. Do you know what? I've worked with lots of entrepreneurs that have gone through successful exits of their business. They've sold their businesses for many, many multi-millions of pounds. What have they got that investors want to buy into? The management team, the team. Everyone thinks about this is how profitable your business is. These are the assets and the IP of the business. Now, whilst all that's important, but certainly when I buy companies, and I've bought many, many companies, I want to meet the management team first. That's where I start. I'm looking at who are the team that are making the profits happen? Who are the team that are delivering for the future? And if you find a business that's key person driven, it's run by one amazing entrepreneur, and if they were taking out of the equation, all the profits would disappear. That means you diminish the value of your business. So the quality of your management team, the people that make it happen, will drive the value in your business. And remember this, when you're running a business, it's very, very difficult to make profitability and cash out of trading, because there's always an opportunity that comes along. So you're using your cash flow to grow the business. You can't help yourself. You're a bleeding entrepreneur. You've got a bit of extra cash. You go and invest it to try and grow the business. So really the real wealth of running a business comes from when you sell the thing. And that's why I always say to entrepreneurs, and this is what investors understand, you should always build a business to sell, even if you have no intention of selling it, because that discipline just makes you build such a better business. Always build your business to sell, even if you have no intention of selling it. So if you're in the mindset that you don't want to employ people, I think you're going to find it very, very difficult to have the real trappings of success that comes with entrepreneurship when you get it right. Let's have a look at the Investor-preneur rules. What is it the top entrepreneurs and business owners are doing? So they're thinking to themselves, look, if I'm going to put some time, effort, money and energy into an entrepreneurial idea, I'm thinking, can I scale this business? What is a scalable business? Well, there's a hungry audience. It can easily do over $1 million of revenue without even thinking about it. In fact, one of the big things that I always say to people is, you'll know if you've got a scalable business, if you have access to all the best people in the world and unlimited funds, could it be £1 billion revenue business overnight? And if you can answer that with real sincerity and truth, you know you've got a business that can scale. Now, lots and lots of entrepreneur business owners are running micro businesses that are very difficult to scale. So you want to avoid those ones. Choose businesses that can scale. I just find it's much better. Like lots of people got restaurants, they've only got 40 covers. They can't make money out of that. But you've got a restaurant that's got 350 covers. That's a model that has economies of scale, that can scale, that once you've got that right, you'll find people wanting to help you run 10 restaurants with 350 covers. Although restaurants are very difficult businesses to make money in. Is the business capital intensive? This is another thing that I ask myself. Like, once I've invested my money to grow the business, do I need loads more capital to grow it? So say you're running a cruise line, hugely capital intensive business. You need more billions to buy more cruise liners, ships to run the business. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're planning on selling your business, try and choose businesses that are not too capital intensive. Now, there is some pros of a capital intensive business. It does protect you against competition. Not everyone can go and start a cruise line tomorrow. So if you've got a cruise line and you've got the billions that are needed to buy these ships, you know there's only very few handful of people that compete with you in the world. So that is the positivity of a capital intensive business. I like businesses where there is a high chance of high tag profitable sales. Now, Apple's the best of this. Disney are the best of this. You can spend £10,000 with Disney on an all-inclusive packaged holiday, or you can just spend $6.99 on Disney Plus, or 10 quid, whatever it is now. And then there's price points in between for you to get into the Disney drug, whether that's buying the toys and the outfits and the clothes or whatever it is in between. But they've got those high price tag sales as well, the cruise lines, the big hotels and the big Disney parks as well. So when you've got both, that can be really helpful. You also want to build businesses where there is a chance of residual income. I love the little phrase, want a little bit of money from a lot of people a lot of the time. Going back to our Disney methodology, the Disney Plus revenue is monthly money that Disney are getting from everyone, including me and my family and tens of millions of people around the world. Apple have it with all their streaming services and Apple Music. Netflix have it, but Netflix only have that. They don't have the big high price profitable sales that Disney and Apple have. So when you've got both, oh, mamma mia, bada bing, bada boom, you've got the cash in the bank. You want to avoid businesses that are me too as well. And this is what I learned with my first entrepreneurial career. I was a kids entertainer, swapping time for money. But then I started hiring out bouncy castles. What I realised, for 500 quid, £1,000, people could start up and compete with me hiring out bouncy castles. And then you're in a race to the bottom in terms of trying to get customers that are buying from you just on price. So avoid being in a Me Too business. Try and go as high a barrier to entry as possible. Think about this. If you're a dentist and you have that qualification that says you can be a dentist, you've got to find other people that have been dentists for 8, 9, 10 years, gone through university, that are able to compete with you. And that makes you higher barrier to entry. It gives you leverage and then you can charge accordingly. So if you want to charge better prices, you want to have less competition, the rule of thumb is be as high a barrier to entry as possible. And there are ways of mitigating that if you are a Me Too business. Like, for example, you're selling burgers and chips, you're a Me Too business. A few £1,000s, people will compete with you. But McDonald's have found a way by using brand where they can leverage themselves as the absolute go-to place to be. And you put a McDonald's selling burgers and fries next to an independent selling burgers and fries, it's by rights, McDonald's will always win the day because of that huge brand power that makes them incredibly high barrier to entry, selling a very Me Too product. So awards can help you, testimonials, being famous, using the leverage of social media. They're all the ways that you can win the day on that. You don't want to choose businesses where there's no margin. I mean, it absolutely shocks me to my core how many business owners get into scale economy businesses. They want to be the next Lidl and Aldi, but Lidl and Aldi are doing billions of revenue, making sliver of margins on that billions of revenue. If you're an SME turning up to £50 million, margin should be the game for you. Yes, you want to offer value for money, but if you haven't got margin, you'll be just turning money, not making any money. And so many businesses are working to 5, 10, 15, 25% margins. You've got to turn a lot of money if that's your small margin. Go for good margins, anything 50% plus, 60, 70% plus, and you will see that you're going to have a much more enjoyable life. You can deliver much better customer service. You can always invest in research and development in your business. I mean, think of this here. We've got an iPhone, whatever it costs them, 300 quid to make this. And they've got massive margin. They're selling it for 1,200 quid. That's why when you go into an Apple shop, you get great customer service. The place looks good. There's enough margin in there for them to invest in research and development to keep bringing out better and better products. You get the idea. If you haven't got margin, you're just going to be turning money and you're going to be frustrated. Okay, let's move on. Will people want to buy it? Two things here. Will people want to actually buy your product? Is there a hungry audience to your product? The best way of explaining this, if you're selling hot dogs, you want to sell hot dogs at halftime in a football stadium with 70,000 hungry fans. You're going to generate sales instantly, now, today, not build a pipeline that might work in 6-9 months. Now, if you've got visions of grandeur, that you want to do space tourism in the future and you want to be the person that's going to move the world, that's okay, but you want to start with businesses that give you instant cash flow. So Richard Branson of the Virgin Group, he started selling records from a phone box. People gave him money on day one. It took him till he got to his 70th birthday to start doing space tourism on the back of instant cash flow businesses. Instant cash flow businesses is where you want to be, and you need to choose businesses where people want to buy the stuff that you're selling. Make sure you test the marketplace. The best way of doing this actually is see if you can get pre-deposits for your product or service before you even launch the product. That's the best way of finding out if there's a hungry audience that want to buy your business. There's also another buyer that you should be thinking about. And this is the real acid test to work out if you've got a great business. Does private equity, a venture capitalist, an investor want to buy your business should you exit? And that's really what you want to be thinking about from the very beginning. I'm building my business to sell, even if I have no intention of selling it. And I think that's why lots of human beings here in the United Kingdom like investing in buy-to-let property. They know that they're going to buy a buy-to-let property, it's going to generate them monthly income. And if they want to sell that asset, there is going to be a list of buyers that will buy that property from them. Now, I actually don't like buy-to-let property investment anymore, but there are a lot of people that do. And subconsciously, they buy into it because they know if they want to get out, someone will buy the property from them. And that's what you want to be as a successful business owner. Who's going to buy this thing from me should I wish to exit? And that's really important, really important. It's the paramount thought of mine. It's one of the reasons, I started a leisure business. I had an indoor play centre. And I'd look around, I thought, if I want to exit, who's going to buy the indoor play centre? It's going to be another one of me. It's going to be a one-man band. It's going to be an entrepreneur. But entrepreneurs don't want to pay anything for businesses. Investors will give much bigger returns. So I looked at my model and I thought, this model isn't good enough for selling. It's not good enough for profitability. And so I added on day nurseries to the indoor play centre. Now that becomes a much better investment. Venture capitalists, private equity, they want to buy into care. Banks love funding care. They don't really like funding leisure and hospitality as much as they like funding care. So I re-engineered the model so that we've got leisure and care in one building, in one business model. Bada bing, bada boom, that makes the business so much more attractive to sell. Okay, how much will I need to scale the business up? So yes, there's capital intensivity if you're doing that cruise line ship, but if you also want to scale the business up in terms of people, in terms of other infrastructure, you want to know that stuff at the outset because that's what an investor would do. Entrepreneurs go, yeah, it'll be all right. We'll make more money and we'll see the opportunities come. Everything's going to be okay. And they use optimism. I mean, I am that guy. But actually, I've got better when I think with a bit more investor mentality and the entrepreneur fused together, hence Investor-preneur. Now, there's another thing that I love talking about, which is there a need for the business? Now, great businesses have this: love, want, and need. And my experience, certainly from running my own businesses, is most people just have two of these things. So, restaurants, going out for dinner. People love going out for dinner. They want to go out for dinner, but they don't need to do it in a restaurant. They could eat at home. Supermarkets. People love food. They want food. They need food. Actually, a real acid test is if you look at the businesses that were allowed to trade during coronavirus, they were all love, want and need businesses or want and need businesses, and they've continued to thrive. So if you can choose businesses that have all three traits, you're going to find you in a really good position. Now, the iPhone's a classic one. People love their iPhone. They want their iPhone. They need their iPhone. Now, if your iPhone breaks today, I hazard a guess that you will stop whatever you're doing, or your smartphone, you will stop whatever you're doing and you will change your plans to repair your iPhone instantly. You'll ring up the Apple Genius bar, or you even go and buy a new phone because you love it, you want it and you need it. And you will change your plans to make sure you achieve it. Now, a lot of my businesses are hospitality, days out. Yeah, sure, people love days out. They want days out, but they don't need days out. My other business, childcare. They love their children to be educated. They want their children to be educated. And because they go into work to earn money for their family, they need their children to be educated, to be looked after. So if you can find love, want and need businesses, you're onto a real winner, gang. You're onto a real winner. And you'll find love, want and need businesses are the ones that get funded the easiest. Now, will it be easy to find management? Remember what we spoke about earlier, E plus M equals S. This is the absolute secret of business. Entrepreneurship plus management equals success. If the business is too management driven, you'll find that no one's moving it forward. If it's too entrepreneurially driven, you'll find there's no systems and processes. You want a nice equal balance between the two. The entrepreneur's driving it forward. They're growing it. Management are operating it. And you know what? When an entrepreneur knows they've got really good management in the business, they've got such power to go on and move more mountains. Really important. If you can't find management, it's going to be really difficult. And lots of businesses, they start with a new idea, a USP, and there's no management around to help them. So finding management is a big key, especially when you want to sell your business, because buyers are buying into management more than anything else. Now, I have a little philosophy for building businesses. It's called the 4-company philosophy. When you're running a business, you want to be in the mindset that you're running 4 companies in unison. Let's break them down right now. Company 1, company 2, company number 3, company number 4. Now, you're not actually running 4 separate companies here. It's a philosophy. And it's the right philosophy, in my opinion. Now, company number 1 is the company that you are today. Company number 2 is the company you really want to be. Company number 3 is a media company or a marketing company. It's best to think of it as a media company. And number 4 is a property company or an investment vehicle. Family office, property company, something that is long-term wealth. Now, when we're running a business, we have fast pounds and slow pounds. Your turnover in your business, just like a salary, is your fast pounds. It tends to come in fast and leave fast. Think about a personal salary. Comes in, the mortgage, the rent goes out, the food goes out. It comes in fast and it goes out fast. And that's what happens with cash flow in a business. You're generating all of your turnover, you pay payroll, the VAT man, the BAT, all of the same thing, the business rates, whatever it is. Cash is coming in fast and it's leaving fast. fast pounds. What you want to do is generate 50% of your profits into slow pounds. I call it 50-50 living. So if your company that you are today generates £100,000 worth of profit, £50,000 you can keep or reinvest into more fast pounds, but £50,000 you want to push into your property or investment company that's building slow pounds over a period of time. Now for me, that's commercial property. I've been taking my profits, putting them into a property company. I went and bought a warehouse, put a couple of £100,000 into it, rent it out over a period of 10 years. That compounds in value and you have some nice assets around you. This is very important for personal wealth, but also for the trading business. Because if you look at great companies like Marks and Spencer's, for example, they had a period, it was a bit wobbly for a few years. They needed to innovate. And no one really worried about them going anywhere because they own loads of assets. They own loads of freehold property. If you look at the airline, Thomas Cook, it went bust because it hadn't innovated. And they focused purely on the top line businesses, generating more fast pounds. And when they got into a period of trouble where they needed to re-innovate the business, because they had no assets, no properties, no planes anymore, they leased everything, no one would lend them any money and they went bust. So it's really important that if you're a savvy entrepreneur, that you're taking some of your profitability, some of your cash flow, not all for yourself, not just to pump back into the business to keep growing it, put some into some slow pound assets. This is like your rainy day guarantee. Now, lots of people keep a slush fund of cash, but cash, in my opinion, depreciates every year. So you want to put it into good, safe investments that appreciate in value. So this is the company you are today. And you're aware of that. This is the company that pays all the bills. Let's look at me, for example. I was an entertainer as a magician. This is the company I am today. I'm generating cash. But what I really want to be is a multi-site leisure operator, which I became. But I thought about that at the same time as running my small business. And it's a philosophy to think, well, look, this is what I'm aiming for. I want to be up there. I'm here now, but everything I'm doing here is going to help me from when I'm that big business. So my entertainment company allowed me the knowledge to run visitor attractions. Yeah, you see? Now, a media marketing company is really important because you should be a marketeer of your business rather than a doer of your business. Most people are operating their business, and when they've got some time, they go and get some customers. Great entrepreneurs understand that actually getting your business known, being really good at getting warm, well-qualified leads into your business can just explode the growth of the business. So this media company pushes in these well-qualified leads. Let's look at Disney right now. Disney creates all those films that gets them to sell tickets to their theme parks, that gets them to sell toys and merchandise, that gets them to sell hotel spaces. And that's all on the back of media. Now, it used to be very difficult to do this stuff. You needed to be a Disney, the BBC to be a media company. But now with effort and energy, you can be a YouTube person, a TikTok person, a podcaster, if it's right for your business. Now, if creating media isn't right for your business, then you should certainly be thinking that you're running a marketing company to get well-qualified leads into your business. It's one of the reasons that I make all this content. It gives me so much deal flow for business opportunities. It's so good for recruitment. It's the amount of people that watch my business stuff that then go to my Rossi Ice Cream Parlour or stay in my hotels or visit my farm parks. Massive. But also the opportunity of funding my businesses, bringing on investors if I wanted to do that, or buying companies, which is the big one. Building personal brand, using media, using marketing to push in leads to your two operating companies is just the way to go. So, number one, the company you are today. You don't want to just rip up what you're doing right now because this is cash flowing your current bills. Number two is the one that you really want to be. Identify it. This is the 12-month business. This is the 10-year business. Remember the chart we did earlier? We're bringing it all together now in a beautiful symphony in an orchestra, a media and marketing company bringing in all of these well-qualified leads. And number four, that property company. You're funneling 50% of your profits into here so that if your business goes for a little period of stagnation, maybe you get ill, maybe you go through a divorce, I don't know, but you can then use your property company to leverage off to re-innovate the two operating companies and go and go and go and go. Okay, right. So they're the four companies that you should be running. This is what the top entrepreneurs are doing. Let's now look at the key metrics for building a super successful business. The 3 KPI rule. There's 3 KPIs that entrepreneurs and business owners should be thinking about. Number 1 is a monthly profit and loss. Number 2 is your average customer value. Number 3 is your labor to turnover ratio. Great businesses have high revenue per employee. You turn in £1 million and you've only got 2 staff, that's £500,000 per employee. If you're turning £1 million and you've got 10 staff, it's now only 100,000. Now, I tend to find the best businesses have high revenue per employee. That's why we're focusing on our labor to turnover ratio. If you're in retail, 15, 20% of your turnover will go on labor. If you're in leisure, 25 to 30%. If you're in childcare, 50, 55%. If you're making software, it could be a lot higher. Work out what your labor to turnover ratio is within the sector that you operate and bloody well stick to it, because the biggest cost in most businesses walks on 2 legs, and if you're not controlling it, you're going to be out of the game. You don't want it to be too hot and too cold. You want it Goldilocks just right. Spend too much on labour, you go bust. Spend too little, you're not R&D and you're not offering great customer service, and your customers go elsewhere. Oh my God, I told you this entrepreneurship game was really difficult. Most entrepreneurs track their revenue growing all the time. No. Get out of that habit. Track your average customer value or your average transactional rate growing every time. So, number 1, we're producing a monthly profit and loss. So we know our numbers on a monthly basis. We're telling our accountant how profitable we are. We're not doing what most people do, is wait for their accountant to tell them how profitable they are. Accountants should be doing tax planning for you, helping you grow the business. You should know how profitable you are on a daily basis. Now, in my opinion, with all these new softwares we've got, Xeros and QuickBooks, you can actually keep an eye on this more than ever, easier than ever before. Monthly profit and loss. Average transactional value or average customer value. Number 3, your labor to turnover ratio. They're the 3 KPIs. They are your Bible for business success. Okay, let's look at rare and protected forms of leverage. Great business owners, brilliant business owners, super successful people have these rare and protected forms of leverage. And you want to get them for your business because it will help you become more profitable. You want to have access to talent. I always like this little story about Jeff Bezos. Now, Jeff Bezos worked for a big, I think it was an investment bank. And he went in to set up Amazon, and we all know that that story went really well. But the second he set up Amazon, he was in that investment bank and he poached a load of these staff to help him set up Amazon. People that he knew were really good, that could just get him to where he wanted to get to a lot quicker. And I think having access to talent, finding a way of having access to talent is going to explode the growth of your business. One of the reasons that I write and do my books, why I do my podcast, I get to meet talented people that can help me grow my businesses, not just employees, but friends and relationships within the business world. How can you get access to talent? The best accountants, the best tax advisors, the best lawyers, the best employees, the best bank managers, the best funders. You've got to get a way of getting access to talent. It is a rare and protected form of leverage. Jeff Bezos is the best way of explaining that. Your environment, who you're around. Listen, it's so weird that so many prime ministers in the UK come from Eton, that private school in just outside London. So many talented people have come out of that school. That environment has created superstars of business and political success. Whether you agree or like them or not, that's a different subject. But you can't underestimate the power of your environment. If your environment isn't good, improve your environment. Get out of your regular environment and you'll just see that you have just more success. Your environment is a rare and protected form of leverage. If you're around billionaires, there's a good chance you're going to become a multi-millionaire and then eventually a billionaire, because that environment is just going to make you better. Okay, your location. Where you are in the world is a rare and protective form of leverage. Now, I started my entertainment business. I was living in Essex, which is next door to London. I had access to this amazing marketplace. I also look at my Rossi Ice Cream Parlour. Now, this is a standalone ice cream parlour with no neighbours in a really quite affluent, highly populated area. And because it's been there 100 years and it's got a great location, we just get customers hand over fist. So if you can, and I look at this, where I'm recording this right now, is a 500-year-old hotel that we own. That location can't be bought. Well, it can be bought, but you can't mimic it. So if you can find a great location, great environment, access to talent, these are going to really help you super succeed in business. Being in London, being next door to London has just helped me so much as a business owner. I'm just very lucky to have been born in the UK. What a great location to build a business. And it's got its problems, but I look at when I've been to other countries around the world, like if I was born in the Philippines, I love the Filipino people. When I went there, I was like, oh my God, it's so much easier to build a business in the United Kingdom next door to London than it is in the Philippines, as amazing as those people are. Access to capital. If you have access to capital, that is a rare and protective form of leverage. Now, if you don't have access to capital, how are you going to get it? Is your environment not good enough? Have you met the right bank managers? Have you knocked on enough doors? Getting access to capital will give you a rare and protected form of leverage. I just always think about this, Elon Musk, just for a joke, put on Twitter, I'm going to buy this. And he achieved that because he has access to capital. A joke became real because he has access to capital. Now, he didn't have that. It's taken him time to get that. But think about this, how can you get access to capital? Distribution. Oh my word. Let me give you an example. I've got an ice cream company. Now, we do supply some of the supermarkets here in the UK. What I've learned about being a food manufacturing business is actually, it's not your food that is important. It's your distribution that's important. It's the transport to get your food to people that will make people buy from you. So much so, I'm buying a food services business that is just a transport company that's going to allow me to distribute my products much easier. That's going to give me rare and protective forms of leverage for my ice cream company. Now, it's everything. If you're producing a film and your dad owns Netflix, that distribution is going to help get your film out there more. If you're a celebrity and you want to create content, that distribution is going to be so much easier than people that are just starting out. So distribution is one of the rare and protective forms of leverage. Access to good transport, good people that can help you distribute your message, whatever it is, distribution. I always think about Bernard Arnault here. That man is a distribution genius. Yes, he is the richest man in the world at the moment, owning Louis Vuitton, Moet, Tiffany's, and a host of other amazing brands. But what he's really good at is working out how to distribute his products. Now, if you go to most of the airports, world duty-free businesses, all those shops you see when you get off of an aeroplane, he owns most of those. He actually bought the biggest chain of those in the world. That distribution to put all of his products into airports where people are spending lots of money just helps him, doesn't it? He understands the power of distribution. Go and check out just how amazing that entrepreneur Bernard Arnault is and see his distribution channels, and you'll realise how that's helped him become one of the richest man in the world. Fame absolutely helps. Even being famous to a few is a rare and protective form of leverage, and that's so easy to do right now. Look, my audience is business owners that are established and want to grow their business. They're watching me on YouTube. I'm not for people that are starting up, that just want to do get rich quick schemes. I want to be famous to a few people that are serious about business growth and may want to sell their business and contact me one day. That fame to a few has really helped me in business. But if you're Taylor Swift, for example, you can imagine how much that fame is helping her sell out world stadium tours and all the other business escapades that she wants to do. Fame has definitely given her rare and protective forms of leverage. Now, we spoke about this hotel and my 100-year-old ice cream parlour earlier on. And that's establishment. And that's why I always tell entrepreneurs and business owners, being a startup business is very difficult when you're competing against an established business. Even if your startup business is better, maybe you want to create a new soft drink brand and it's the best tasting soft drink brand in the world. You're going to find it very difficult to compete with the established Coca-Cola that's had a century behind them. So establishment is one of the biggest rare and protective forms of leverage that I've ever discovered. Time in the game, establishment just helps you. Owning a 500-year-old hotel, a 100-year-old ice cream company, even if our competitors are better than us, being established gives us a rare and protective form of leverage. Oh, I really, really believe it. That's why I always say to people as well, think about this. Let's play a game. dear viewer, as you're watching this video, if I said to you, what's the famous, oldest, biggest, best shop in London? I think you're probably thinking of two businesses right now. And the one that probably first comes to mind is Harrods. And then you might have thought Selfridges. And then you've really got to think about other shops that are old and established, that are big and they're the best. I mean, yes, you might think about, I actually can't think of any others than Harrods and Selfridges. And that's the point, really. That's the point, how much it can really help you in business. Now, predetermination from reputation. If my iPhone breaks, I have been trained to be an Apple consumer. So when this breaks or when it gets too old, I'm predetermined from my reputation of being a customer of theirs just to replace it with, you've guessed it, another bleeding iPhone. And that's what I love about my ice cream parlour, the Rossi Ice Cream Parlour. People are predetermined when they go to Southend or they go to an area that we sell our ice cream, they're predetermined to buy from us based on years of previous reputation, even if we have competitors that are better than us. It is just the way human beings work. And that's one of the reasons why buying companies can be so much better than starting businesses. And I've made loads and loads of videos here on the YouTube channel about me doing business takeovers. Go and check them out. Apple are the best company that I can think of right now. Maybe Disney, but also hotel chains have it as well. Airlines have it. Like, people are predetermined. I only want to fly BA, or I only want to fly Virgin, or I only want to stay in a Hilton hotel. You know, this is predetermination from previous reputation is a rare and protective form of leverage. Brand is obviously the one that everyone comes to mind. If you've got a brand, you know, you always buy Nikes, you always want Nikes. If you always use Apple computers, you always use Apple computers because you love the brand. And yes, brand is the most obvious one, and that's why I've left it till the very end. So let's wrap this all up. We're building a business to sell even if we don't want to sell it. When is the best time to sell your business? Well, it's when it's a commercially profitable enterprise that works without you, with a brilliant management team running it. The business must make wages plus profit. And this is a big thing. You know, if you've got a business and it's doing 1 million of revenue and it makes 100K profit, but you're paying yourself out of the 100K, that's not really a profitable business. If it's making 1 million profit, you pay yourself 100K and then it makes 100K profit, that's when a business gets really good. So wages plus profit, wages plus profit. This is when it starts becoming an investment. Now, another little top tip for you, never sell when you have to. Make sure that you're planning your sale for your business way into the future. Remember this, gang, you know, you do exit the business one day, whether that's through death or through a planned approach. Things don't go on forever, and don't let your exit day be your retirement day. Plan to exit the business that you're running right now in either 5 or 10 years. Now, if you then decide to carry on going again, that's okay, but we want to build to a date. We want to have a finish date for the business. It'll just make you a far more effective entrepreneur. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to add. And if you'd like me to make any other videos to help grow your business, hit it in the comments as well, and I'll do my very best to make them. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and like it. And go and check out my sister channel as well, which is called the James Sinclair Podcast, where you can listen to me coach business owners on how I'd grow their business. I'll put a link in the video description for that as well. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.